of nature.
Now Noelle is probably one maid you want on your team. The three pillars of any character: power, defense, and healing. Noelle can do it all, and at a very high level. If you're looking for a main DPS, a healer, or someone who can do both, then Noelle is the one you're looking for. Her entire skill set makes her one of the best characters in the game, including 5 stars. Now, today I'm going to show you the best weapons you can use, my personal artifact build, constellations and recommendations if you happen to be a Noelle simp or you're just a whale, and last but not least, I'll be going over her talents. Now after this one, Noelle is probably going to need a spot on one of your squads. Serpent Spine, my personal weapon of choice for Noelle. You can get this claymore by reaching level 30 on the battle pass and paying $10 US to unlock the second row. Now, I use Noelle as my main DPS, so the wave splitter effect is perfect for this. For every 4 seconds the character is on the field, they will deal 6% more damage, but they will take 3% more damage, and this has a maximum of 5 stacks. However, if you take damage, it will be reduced by 1 stack. But remember guys, Noelle doesn't know what taking damage feels like. Now, with the substat of crit rate, it makes it perfect for the specific build. Oh, and did I forget to mention just how good this claymore looks? I mean, aesthetics equals more damage. Now as my second choice, I recommend the white blind. You can get this claymore by crafting it at your local blacksmith. Now with a substat of defense percentage, the effective infusion blade, which on hit, your normal and charge attacks will increase your attack and defense by 6% for 6 seconds. With a maximum of 4 stacks, white blind was literally made for Noelle. Now, the reason I didn't go with this one is because the Serpent Spine looks way better. And I also feel like my damage was way more consistent when using the Serpent Spine compared to the white blind. Regardless, I would say this claymore is 1B to Serpent Spine's 1A. Now, I only went over 2 claymores, mainly because I don't have that many 4-star ones. And also because the white blind is literally a free 4-star weapon that's better than all the rest and kind of equal with the Serpent Spine. But if you have any other claymores that you use or you're thinking about using, let me know in the comment section and I'll definitely check it out. So an artifact set that I've chosen for Noelle is the Retracing Bow Light set. Now the 2-piece effect, which increases your shield strength by 35%, is nice to have, but the real reason I chose this set is because of the 4-piece effect. This will grant you an additional 40% normal and charge damage while you're protected by a shield. This is perfect for Noelle, since her elemental skill grants you a shield. Another cool thing is that with the elemental reaction crystallized, you're going to be able to pick up different shields on the ground that match the element that you crystallized with, adding to the consistency of this set. Now, I was fortunate enough to obtain Zhongli, and since my Zhongli has quite a lot of HP, I'm always able to keep a shield up for Noelle. It's not needed, but it really is nice to have. Now as an alternate set, you could go with the Gladiator set. Its 2-piece effect provides a nice boost to your attack percent, and its 4-piece effect increases your normal attack damage by 35% if you're using it on someone who wields a claymore, sword, or a polearm. And if you aren't aware yet, Noelle happens to use a claymore. Now keep in mind that this 35% damage boost will only work on your basic attacks and not your charged attacks. Now if I didn't mention a set you guys think is good on Noelle, or maybe a set you're using on Noelle right now, let me know in the comment section and I'll be sure to check out those sets too. It's time to get into the artifact pieces. For the flower, flat HP will always be your main stat, so let's focus on the substats. For these substats, you're going to want crit rate, defense percentage, crit damage, and energy recharge. Now energy recharge is 4th on the priority list, but it's something that you really like to have, as Noelle's true damage is shown when she has her ultimate. However, I wouldn't put it above crit damage, as it doesn't really matter how fast you get your ultimate if the damage is just going to be bad. The feather piece is always going to be flat attack as your main stat. So let's focus on the substats for this one. The substats for the feather are going to be exactly the same as the flower, with crit rate, defense percentage, crit damage, and energy recharge. So for a timepiece, you're going to have two options. I personally recommend you go with the defense percentage as your number one option. If you can't get a good defense percentage piece, then attack percentage is a good alternative. For the substats, you're going to want crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, and attack percent. Now if you're using a piece with a main stat of attack percent, then your substats will be similar to the previous pieces and look like this, with defense percentage at number 2. Now the main stat for the cut piece is going to be Geo damage bonus. Noelle's true damage is her ultimate, so maximizing that damage is the best option to go. Now as alternatives, you could use an attack percent cup or a defense percentage cup, but Geo damage bonus will give you the most damage increase for your ultimate. For the substats, you're going to want crit rate, defense percentage, crit damage, and energy recharge. If you're going with a defense percentage cup, then you're going to want crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, and attack percent. So for the headpiece, I usually never go with a crit rate helmet, but when the substats are too perfect, I just have to put it on. For this piece, you can either go with a crit rate or a crit damage as your main stat. I also highly recommend you only go with a crit rate main stat if you have crit damage as a substat. Now for the substats, you're going to want defense percentage, crit damage, energy recharge, and attack percent. Now if you're going for a crit damage main stat, they're going to want crit rate, defense percentage, energy recharge, and attack percent as your substats. Now for constellations, I haven't managed to get one Noelle constellation, despite how many times Noelle has been on the banners, but it's okay, because none of her constellations are must-haves. Still, if you are going for constellations, then the ones you really want are Constellation 1 and Constellation 6. However, I'll be going over every constellation. Noelle's first constellation, I Got Your Back, is the second best constellation for Noelle, as this constellation will increase the consistency of Noelle's healing ability, making it more of an option if you plan to use Noelle as a pure healer compared to the other healers in the game. Noelle's second constellation, Combat Maid, is a nice constellation to have, but it's not all that needed. But it is nice to have for the extra damage. Noelle's third constellation, Invulnerable Maid, is just a level increase for breastplate. Not needed, but it is nice to have. Now Noelle's fourth constellation, To Be Clean, is by far Noelle's worst constellation. I don't have it, so I can't really show you myself, but it seems like any character with an AoE skill like this has very poor damage. Also, breastplate has a long cooldown for an elemental skill, so it's not something you can be very consistent with, even with this constellation. Noelle's fifth constellation, Favonius Sweeper Master, is just another level up increase for Noelle's ultimate. More damage never hurt. Noelle's sixth constellation, Must Be Spotless, is by far Noelle's best constellation, because the damage boost you get from this constellation for your ultimate, Sweeping Time, is immense. Also, this constellation allows you to add the duration of Sweeping Time, increasing it by 1 second for every enemy you defeat with a maximum of 10 seconds. Damage and duration boost is given by this insane constellation. So for Noelle's talents, you're going to need to focus on all of them. Now if you only care about the DPS part first, then her normal attack and elemental burst Sweeping Time are both important, but you will need to level up breastplate if you want to increase Noelle's survivability in combat. Now Noelle's first passive talent, Devotion, allows you to grant a shield to the active character whenever their HP falls below 30%, and this shield is one overpowered shield in terms of how much it can take, allowing you to absorb damage equal to 400% of Noelle's defense with a 150% damage absorption effectiveness. Not sure what that means, but it sounds OP, against physical and elemental damage. This can definitely be a lifesaver in tough situations. Now Noelle's second passive talent, Nice and Clean, isn't the best, to be honest. It allows you to decrease the cooldown of breastplate which is good, but the requirements, not so much. You have to land 4 normal or charge attacks to decrease the cooldown of breastplate by 1 second. Now since she uses a claymore, this can be slow at times to the point where you never really notice it. Still, it is a nice talent to have. Now Noelle's third passive talent, Maid's Knighthood, is completely useless to someone like me, as I don't really use food buffs in this game currently, mainly because I don't think the content has gotten to the point where it's necessary to use. Still, if you are into using food buffs, then Noelle gives you a 12% chance to obtain double whatever your product is when you perfect cook a defense boosting dish. Definitely better than nothing. Now for the teams, I think the best team for Noelle is an all Geo team for 2 main reasons. 1, since your team is all Geo, Noelle will gain her elemental burst much faster. Now the second reason is because of the elemental resonance and enduring rock, which is just by far better than any elemental resonance in the game, and it's not even funny. Shield strength plus 15%, and while you're protected by a shield, damage dealt is increased by 15%, and dealing damage decreases the enemy's geo resistance by 20%, which is basically saying it's increasing your geo damage by 20% against the enemies you hit. It's just broken. Now if you can't get 4 geo on your team, that's okay, but I highly recommend you bring 1 more geo character with you and 2 pyro characters. You will still get the benefits from the elemental resonance and enduring rock, and you will get an additional 25% attack for having 2 pyro characters on your team. Also, your energy recharge for Noelle will be better compared to just having her by herself, since you have another geo character on your squad. Noelle is one character that can provide it all for your team. It can be damage, healing, or defense, making her one of the best 4-star characters in the game. If you have any suggestions for this build, don't forget to comment them down below. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more build videos like this for other characters. Finals are finally over, so thankfully I can start to upload more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.